What's up, guys? Welcome to Press Pass Live. That's right, your weekly OMFL podcast show. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is playoff time, and it is an exciting time, and so we are bringing a special night show to you guys so that we can get you ready for the playoffs, give you our predictions, give you our thoughts, and as always, let me welcome into my two co-hosts with me. I am the Commissioner, Nate, and then, of course, we've got my two main guys here, Mr. Dawson and Mr. Dwayne. Friends from Arkansas, how are you today?
Uh, Pretty good so far.
All good. No complaints on this end.
So special congratulations to our boy Dawson, who has graduated with his MBA. Congratulations, sir. Bravo. Great job.
Appreciate it very much. Thanks, man.
In all seriousness, though, that's something to be super proud about. And even with everything that you've got going on, wife and MBA and job, you still find time for us, and it is very much appreciated. You guys may hear me cuss from time to time, as I am watching my Pelicans lose our very last game of the season here, and it's a little depressing, but it's been a good season, so nobody's here to hear me cry about the Pelicans. They are here, though, to hear us talk about the OMFL. Before we get started, though, I wanted to give a quick shout-out. We were kind of giving shout-outs on the last show, and I feel like there's a guy here that deserves some props, deserves a little love from the Press Pass Live crew, and that's Mr. Priest. Mr. Priest has been a part of this league now for a little while, probably a couple years. One of the most laid-back, fun, friendly guys that you'll ever meet. The dude plays football. He gets Green Bay Packer tattoos, which probably makes Dawson love him all the more. And has just been a mainstay in our league with just a great attitude. And here of late, he's really stepped up to the plate. We had some changes, unfortunately, a couple months back where one of our commissioners, because of life, had to step down from running the OMFL2. Now, Maniac has made his way back with us, and we are glad that he is back. But Chaotic needed to let go of his baby, the OMFL Coach Mode, which is a league I started a couple of Maddens back. And he took over the OMFL2 along with running our FPR, which has had to take a little bit of a step back this season just because of real life. Poor guy's working like 16-hour days, something stupid. But Priest stepped up, took over the Coach Mode League, has ran it great. He also helped me get the graphics put together for the playoff bracket. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Priest. I appreciate all of his help, everything that he's done for us, Priest. I really appreciate you. And man, we just need more guys just like Priest, and we do. We have a really great group of guys. So now that I've got brown stuff all over my nose about a couple of owners here, let's just jump right into it. Now, a couple of games have already been played. We're going to kind of skip the look back, but let's talk about the playoffs and let's talk about who's in. So let me go ahead and give you the breakdown, which I actually don't have in front of me. I think I have it. I don't have it posted. Do you guys have the playoff seeding? Oh no, it's going to be right here. It's going to be under schedules. You would think that we have our act together, but we don't. We're still working on it. Let's get over here to the postseason. Daddy Leagues is not updating. So go ahead, give me the rundown, Dwayne, of the playoff seeding and the playoff matchups that we have. Let's do the AFC first and then run through the NFC.
All right, in the AFC, you got the number one seed, Cincinnati Bengals, at 15-1 this season. You had number 2 seed, Jacksonville Jaguars, at 12-4. You had the number 3 seed, Oakland Raiders, at 10-6, going against the number 6 seed, Tennessee Titans, at 11-5. And in the other wild card matchup, you have the New York Jets, the 4 seed, at 8-8, going against the Houston Texans, the number 5 seed, at 11-5. That's your AFC matchups. And your NFC, you have the number 1 seed Atlanta Falcons at 15-1. You have your number 2 seed Seattle Seahawks as your at 14-2. And you have your Minnesota Vikings at 13-2-1 as your 3 seed, going against the 9-7 6 seed Arizona Cardinals. And the other NFC matchup, you have the 12-4 New York Giants going against their NFC East rival 11-5 Philadelphia Eagles.
So let's go ahead and talk about. I think you said that there was one game or two games that are already done. Let's go ahead
Yes.
and talk about those games. We did have the New York Giants facing the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, two guys that have already met up twice this season, and man, it is really hard to beat a team three times. Go ahead. Do you have the score? Do you remember the score of that game? I know that it's complete, and I know that the Eagles did come away with a victory. They did have a little bit of a blowout going, but the Giants did make a comeback. What was the final score of that game? Let's go ahead and talk about it.
So if you got right offhand, if not, I'm almost certain it
Yeah,
was like 34-31. Is that what was it? Go ahead, Dawson.
yeah. The Eagles Giants game they just played this afternoon, and it was seemed like it was a close game. I didn't get to watch it. I was on my way home, but Eagles escaped the Giants 34-29. And from what I hear, maybe there's a few lag issues, but it is the playoffs and anything can happen. So congrats on Ziploc Andrew for getting that playoff win. I want to say this is his first playoff win this cycle. So that's always a good feeling, getting that out of the way and moving on into the divisional round. Don't really have the stats. I guess the box score. I mean, kind of varies and somewhat similar. The one big, I guess, separation was that the Eagles had 139 rushing yards, while the Giants only had 32 rushing yards. Turnovers, both teams turned the ball over quite a bit, but the Giants turned it over 5 times compared to the Eagles 3 times. So you can probably see, can tell, just my, I guess, for me, just speculating, is that was a big turning point on why the Eagles came up and got that 5 point victory over their division rival.
And from what I understand, there's also an AFC game that's going down right now. Also, don't we have possibly
Just
uh,
finished up
who was that? I think it was the Houston Texans.
in the Jets. Yes, sir.
Houston Texans
Yeah.
and Jets. What happened with that game? Do we know?
Go
Um,
ahead.
I watched a little bit off and on, and I think Jets got up to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. So that's always a big, I guess, a hurdle that any team has to go over, try to overcome. And switched back and noticed in third quarter that the Texans was down by just a touchdown. And it kind of came back and forth. Texas had a chance to tie it up. It was 21-28 with like less than right at 2 minutes left to go in the game. But he threw a very critical interception right in the red zone where Jets, Mo Deli was just able to get that advantage. And the very next play was just a dagger right through right not right on the Texans, and it was a 97-yard run for the Jets to get a 14-point lead with 2 minutes left to go in the game. So, but the Jets move on. 8-8 team beat, I believe Texas ended up being 10-6. So that's, I guess you can say a upset. I guess on the seedings, technically it wasn't. But when you see, no, Texas was 11-5, excuse me.
Yeah.
So that was a big upset for the and a big win for the Jets.
Yeah, that's a massive win. Now we do have it is a rule technically. I don't enforce it very hard for a reason because I'm trying to let grown men be grown men, but we do ask that guys don't chat in the chat during gameplay. Nothing good ever comes from it, and I kind of kept my nose out of it because I was super busy tonight trying to get the playoff graphic done and real life stuff and try to get ready for the show and all that other stuff. And so I didn't say anything, but I could tell he was ranting and raving pretty hard. And I get it; it's the playoffs. He's had an 11-5 season. He was losing to an 8-8 team. Like that's a tough pill to swallow. But what I find amazing is very few teams lose clean. Like very few teams can lose, especially when things really matter. Very few teams can just say, "Good game, you were the better team," and walk off. It's always some kind of issue with the game somewhere. And so, like again, tensions are high, especially in the playoffs, and we can ruin a really good season, or you can maybe ruin a relationship with somebody else in the league by saying the wrong thing in chat. Just nothing good comes of it. It makes the other guy feel like he didn't earn it. It just nothing but bad things come of talking in the chat during the game. Because rarely is it, oh man, great play, oh you're so good, oh good game. Like, that's not what those chats are. Those chats are usually, oh I can't believe it, this is BS, and blah blah blah. Look, and even I have fallen victim to the emotions that can kind of overrun you at times. But again, for the rest of the playoff teams, just try to stay out of chat while the gameplay is going on, just because we want to be respectful, and in the heat of the moment, something that you're not trying to be disrespectful can come across as very disrespectful. So, got off my little rant. Dwayne, go ahead and walk us through the AFC. I'm sorry that Daddy Leagues isn't working. I don't know what's up with it. It's acting kind of funky tonight, and that's kind of hindering me. But luckily, my two buddies here do tons more homework than I do, and because they do most of the talking. So, walk us through the next AFC matchup that we have, and let's break it down.
Well, your next matchup you got is going to be the Raiders versus Titans, which I think is just a very intriguing matchup. Just to say the least. I was pulling up some stats here on both these teams, and you got both teams here just very solid defensively. I'll just touch on the Raiders here. Well, I'll touch on the Titans. I'll let Dawson cover the Raiders. He has a lot more experience playing the Raiders. But if you look at his Titans teams, are 11-5 this year. They are led by Marcus Mariota, who had a pretty solid season this year, and I think he's going to give the Raiders problems this game. And I say this for many reasons. That I think the Raiders are going to come to this game trying to slow down a running attack, who is led by Malik Simpson for the Titans, who had 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns this year. He was a stud and was in MVP talk, and we really thought he was going to push that 1,500-yard mark there for the last couple of games. Didn't come away with it, but nonetheless, still a great season. Then you go down and look at all the weapons he's got, and one weapon that just really sticks out to me, and I think sticks out to everybody, is Corey Davis. 87 catches, 1,600 yards, only 6 drops in the season. A guy getting that many catches, if the ball's thrown his way, 6 drops is pretty nice. 12 touchdowns. He's got Eason with 637 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sharp with 460 yards and a touchdown. But it's all about Corey Davis when it comes down to the Titans air attack game. And and as good as Corey Davis is, I think that could be his weakness. Also, when I talked about Mariota, that I thought he would tear apart this Raiders team for the fact I thought the Raiders tried to slow the run down. But I do think the Titans are going to spread the ball around this matchup. I don't think you can be able to force feed Davis this whole game and get away against such a good team like the Raiders are. You go down and look at defensively. The Titans this season, you're talking about a team that was ranked 3rd in total defense, 2nd in passing yards, and 13th in rushing yards, and 8th in points against. Those are good numbers, really good numbers, especially that passing yards against number, because this league is majority of owners have become really, really pass heavy. And he does play one of the last divisions that I think 3 of the 4 owners, if I'm mistaken, just run the ball like crazy. But it's still, nonetheless, 152 yards a game giving up passing is phenomenal. If you look at his team, he's got 2 guys, almost 3 guys with double-digit sacks. He's got Brister with 13, Breston, I'm saying that right, 12 sacks, and he's got Donnelly with 9 sacks. Then multiple guys with 4, 2, 5. But then you go over the forced fumbles, which I just drool over the forced fumble thing. He's got 4 guys on the team with 2 or more forced fumbles, and you're talking about a key turning point in the game. If you can get those and I hate to say cheap ones, but if your computer can just get lucky and get a hit stick fumble, that's just a Christmas gift. That's just you love seeing it. It's just easy, easy way to get the ball and easy points. And he's got multiple guys with more than 2 and 3 interceptions. I think his defense is going to be the telling part of this one, because we all know the Raiders are a vaunted offense who love to throw the ball. Between Carr and Dawson, help me out there. I just blanked out on his receiver's name.
Cooper.
Cooper. I don't know why I couldn't think Cooper. I had that.
Oh, yeah, I know his name for sure.
A 1-2 connection there that is really unstoppable, and we're going to see one of the top passing teams. At least when you play him, he's going to air the ball out against one of the top passing defenses, and I think this is going to be a very intriguing matchup, and I'll shift it over for Dawson and let him tell you about the Raiders.
Dawson, before we go to the Raiders, do we know if Simpson is hurt?
Yeah, I was going to say that he probably would have got over 1,500 rushing yards if he didn't get hurt that last game. But yeah, he did get. I think he's on the IR. If I'm not mistaken. Wow. So he's out. I think the whole playoffs. and that was Titans' workhorse, in the backfield. So now he needs to find a new groove, a new running back, to fill in and to get past, Khalil Mack and his friends over there at the Raiders. To me, one of the biggest. This game is probably one of the biggest playoff matches, in my opinion. Between AFC and NFC, because you got my divisional counterpart, the Raiders. They can always be deadly, especially the way the pass game is. Cooper, once you get him rolling, there's no stopping him. But then you also got the Titans. They're still riding high on their Week 17 miracle win, miracle in Nashville against the Bills. Snuck me out of the playoffs on that game, that win. So he's confident enough, and I feel like one matchup you kind of touched up on it is we just need to keep an eye on is the Titans rushing game versus the Raiders rushing defense. The Titans, they come into the playoffs ranked third in the third rushing team in the league. And then you got the Raiders, which has a somewhat a mediocre front seven, or ranked 13th. But saying all that, we got Khalil Mack, and I can't think of his linebacker. He's Jay Bowles, he uses him a lot, and he's everywhere on the field. Yes, that's Riley Gogan. I can't stop him anywhere. But to me, this is going to be a very intriguing game to see if the Raiders can use this passing attack, get those points, or if Titans can just slow the game down with this rushing attack and get that late either a late score. Which I feel like my prediction, I think the Titans will win over the Raiders, and with a either like a last minute score or a comeback in the fourth quarter. But both teams, they deserve it. I think I am 10-6 record this year, so I was the odd man out. But I had my chances to make the playoffs, so that's all I can say. And I didn't make them. I didn't overcome those. So hats off to everybody that did make the playoffs, AFC and NFC. And it's always a good feeling, once you do make it, you have that chance of trying to get that trophy. But realistically, sometimes your chances are a little bit lower than others. But hey, you're in the playoffs, and anything can happen.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun matchup between two really good teams, and it sucks that you were kind of the odd man out there because I think that you were definitely on a roll. What's going to hurt the Titans is that you lost that workhorse, right? You lost that guy that is your number one running back, but I mean, he's got two guys with double-digit sacks. Of course, the Raiders have Khalil Mack, who had 21 sacks. You've got a receiver that threw up, your running back got almost 1,500 yards. You got a receiver with 1,500 yards. Like, there's a lot of really good things there to enjoy about that Titans team, and hopefully he can still find that balance. I mean, his backup guy did average 7.1 yards a carry. With the Raiders, though, you worry about this passing team, right? And this passing attack, this is one of the most confusing players that have yet to figure out is Arnaud. Devon Arnaud came into this league under Houday when he was with the Bengals. The dude was a superstar. Just like one of those guys we thought would be Offensive Player of the Year every year until he retired. He gets sat on the bench with Cincy Berg, who takes over the Bengals whenever Houday left. He gets traded away. Like, this guy only had 10 touchdowns and 13 interceptions with 9 sacks. Like, he's just a really confusing player about, is it health? Is it mental? Like, what is it that keeps this guy from being a superstar that we expect him to be? But this should be a really, really fun game and a good game to watch. What is our next matchup in the AFC? Oh, that's the game that was just played, right?
Yes, sir.
So this game is the second game. We've got the one game in the NFC that was played that we talked about. What's our next matchup in the NFC?
You have your 3 seed Minnesota Vikings versus your 6 seed Arizona Cardinals in a game that, in my opinion, will be, if you want to tune in and see great defense, you watch this game and watch these two teams play. You got two teams who are both ranked inside the top 10 in nearly every category defensively, and you got the Vikings who are literally first and second in 3 categories right now defensively. I'll jump over and just touch the Vikings a little bit as a team I know a little more about. I look at a team who is ranked first in first in defensive points, second in total yards, seventh in passing yards, and first in rush defense. You're talking about a team who just takes you and suffocates your offense and makes you find creative ways to play offense. It takes you out of your rhythm. He makes you get out of your comfort zone, and not many guys can play successfully outside their comfort zone. You look down at his offense is 13th in scoring at 26 points a game. You can look at that as, he's just a so-so offense, 26 points a game. But literally you're doubling your defensive points allowed when your defense is so good. 26 points wins you a lot of games. He's 18th in total yards on offense, 8th in passing yards, and he's 28th in rushing yards. And we'll get to that because I do think his rushing attack is going to be his Achilles heel through this playoffs. I think he will say that himself, that his rushing game is what hurts him. And I've always been a guy, and it hasn't always worked out for me. But I've been a guy who believes in you got to run the ball, especially in the playoffs. I think football gets uglier in the playoffs. And when I say that, it's not gameplay, just the football gets uglier. I think the flashiness is gone for most teams. There's still some teams out there who can play just as pretty in the postseason they can in the regular season, but not most teams can't. You can look at his quarterback, Duncan Hoffman. Oh, my cat is attacking my hand while I'm trying to talk. Who had 3,900 yards passing this year, 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, which is really good for a guy. And I like to tell Bill that he is a great quarterback. He's a great game manager. I think Bill really. If you look at him, I think Bill this year was first in turnover ratio. If I'm not mistaken, I think he only turned the ball over 18 times all season, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But he was like plus 31, if I'm not mistaken, in turnover ratio. Hoffman controls the game. Hoffman really tries to not put his defense in a bad situation. Look at 16 interceptions. He gives up 1 interception a game on average, which is not a bad season at all. This is the telltale right here for me, though, is if you look at his running game, you look at Pumphrey Jr., Kemp, Ellams, you look at guys who had 477 yards, 473 yards, 148 yards. But the thing that gets me is the average is 3.6 yards a carry for Pumphrey, 3.2 for Kemp, and 3.5 for Ellams. I just can't fathom how, as good as Bill is in every other aspect, how his running game hasn't gotten any better. He does have 13 rushing touchdowns this season, which is not bad at all. I just really think that if he had a running game to supplement his very efficient, I ain't going to say explosive, but very efficient passing game, I think he would even – it's ridiculous how scary he would be.
Do we know if Diggs is still hurt, though? Because according to Data Leaks, he's still out for 5 more weeks.
I don't think he's out. Diggs? Is Diggs still out, Dakota?
As far as I know, he's not, but I have been wrong before.
I don't think so. I know how Daddy Leagues does that. But he could be, but I don't think he is. And just touching that, now that you talked about Diggs, as you look at how his running backs have really underperformed all season, you look at his receiving course, Diggs at 1,600 yards, only 4 touchdowns, which is kind of shocking, which kind of shows me that guys really just key on him, especially in the red zone. But then you go down to Obi, who has 1,100 yards. Mm-hmm. What kills me with him, and I even told him when I played him this season, he has 19 drops in the season. And that kind of scares me a little bit because, I will take it. He does average 20 yards a catch. He has 10 touchdowns a season, but, man, that 19 drops really scares me. It really scares me, especially going to playoffs when, man, every catch counts. I don't care how you look at it. Every catch counts, and you can't have guys dropping the ball like that, as great as the receiver as he is. He has Sprinkle, and then, an old Packer and Ty Montgomery rounding out them receivers right there. He does have a very efficient, and when I say efficient, he averaged almost 70% completion percentage this year. Mm-hmm. He makes the most of his throws. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He has some weapons in the receiving core. Diggs is one of the best, if not the best receiver, in my opinion, outside of, Datko and Kesey and maybe I can't remember Cincinnati receiver's name. Outside of them guys, Diggs might be right behind him, if not right there with him. He just didn't have the gaudy stats to go with him. If you go defensively, is where Bill shines. You got Daniel Hunter with 26 sacks. You got Chandler Jones with 10 sacks. You got Short with 5 sacks. You got Shuri Floyd with 4 sacks. You got a front four right there is just scary, especially Hunter. He comes off the edge. He's fast. He's big. He's a force to be reckoned with. And then you go with a part of the defense that I think he is even scarier, and that's scary saying that when you look at those sacks numbers. He has Gene, Harrison Smith, both have four forced fumbles, 4 and 5 forced fumbles. And you go to interceptions, he has one, two, three, two guys with 6 interceptions, a guy with 8 interceptions, a guy with 10 interceptions. He just makes plays in the secondary. And I know this number for a fact because I did look at it on Madden compared to here. That Culver, he does have 5 defensive touchdowns on the season.
That's
It's
crazy.
ridiculous when you can generate points on defense the way he does with his defense. As a total, it says he has 8. Daddy League's iffy about that, but I do know that his defense has generated so much offense for him this year that, like I said, all Hoffman has to do is manage the game and don't screw it up. I mean, I hate to say it like that, and the way his defense plays that good makes up for the deficiency he does have in the running game. And like I said, I do think if he gets the running game together, Bill could be a Super Bowl contender or somebody that could take that NFC away from Mo this postseason.
Dawson, why don't you go ahead and talk about the Cardinals real quick?
Yeah, you got Bill, the Giant Slayer this season. He took down the Seahawks and the Bengals this season, and he gave Bengals their only loss of the season. So hats off to Bill. He's got that defense clicking, right where where they need to be, especially this time of the season. Right into the playoffs. I think what's most impressive for the biggest matchup, I guess, for this difference is the turnover differential. You got the Vikings at 32, and then you got Cards at 10. I think that's a big difference. Probably about 10 of them was between the Seahawks and Bengals game for the Vikings. But for the Cards, I think also looking back at the Cards, we didn't really talk much about the Cards throughout the seasons. Smash, he kind of really snuck up right under there and grabbed that last wild card spot. So hats off to him on making it. But I think he kind of, like I said, he's got similar stats, with Bill. Probably not as of impressive stat-wise on defense, but we all know how he plays and how good he can play, especially the way when he, a couple seasons ago when he was with the Jets, he had the team clicking right there. And he came back with the Cardinals, and I think last year he had a down year. And this year, he snuck in, and one thing that kind of similar to Bill is the offense. With the Cardinals, he's got 27th ranked. Yeah. And he got the 27th ranked rushing, only averaging 73 yards a game. So he's having to rely a lot either on his defense or causing those turnovers, or with Bridgewater. And then when you got to rely a lot on Bridgewater, that's when the interceptions come in. Right now, he's got over 24 interceptions with 20 passing touchdowns. So that ratio is not very good, for a playoff team. But he does have over 3,200 yards passing, and I feel like that's always a good mark for me, because my guys, they can't throw anything, and once I get over 3,000, I'm fine with that. But another key stat, the way Dakota's talking about, with the way the Bills or is able to get the pass rush going. Bridgewater has been sacked 51 times this season. I'm not sure if that's what rank that is, because we know a lot of other guys like to hold on to the ball. But yeah, in real life, that's a lot, and that's kind of the chances of him getting injured, tearing his ACL again, that's going to be really bad for Bridgewater. But I think it's going to be a lot closer game than we think it is. Because they did play back in week 16, and the Cardinals, they won. I think it was 12-9. So it was a defensive game. And so Vikings will be looking for revenge, and Cardinals will be looking for the upset win. It's going to be tough to decide, to see who will win or who will get that W. I think they're supposed to play Wednesday nights. Yes. I think I'm just going to go with an easy prediction and go with Bill, the way he's been playing on his defense, and moving forward to the divisional round.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I think that you can win with a middle-of-the-pack offense or defense if the other side of the ball is a top 5, right? And with Bill, he can do that. He's middle of the pack in everything on offense with a top, 3 or 2 or 1. in a lot of defensive categories, except for the rushing. He is 28th or 23rd or whatever. It's a pretty low number in rushing. I do think that will be his Achilles heel, but later, not in this round. I do think that the Minnesota Vikings come away with the victory. It looks like Buda Baker is still injured for the Cardinals, and he had 14 interceptions for that team. So you're talking about a lot of big plays from your safety that is now taken away. And for a team that's really going to struggle on offense against that number one defense, you're going to have your own defense come through with some interceptions. And that number that you threw out of that plus 31 or 35 or whatever that was for the Minnesota Vikings, it's just outstanding. I got the Minnesota Vikings in this one too. Dwayne, who do you have in this game?
I just think this is going to be a game, like I said earlier, I think that some guys can watch and pick some defensive tips up. You got two defensive juggernauts here. Like I said, I think you got two different ones here. You got the Vikings who are just a suffocating defense.
Wait before you make a prediction. Buda Baker is not injured, so he's back. So he's back. And Diggs is back. So both of them are back. Star players are back. And so it will be everybody's healthy on both sides.
That makes that Minnesota Vikings offense way better.
It makes the Vikings offense better. It makes the Cardinals defense scarier. And just what I was saying, the Vikings defense is just a suffocating defense. And the Cardinals, in my opinion, are more of a opportunistic defense. They don't quite put up the gaudy numbers the Vikings have, but they will make you pay. Like I said, Dawson was talking about, you have Buda Baker and Buchanan with 14 interceptions and 8 interceptions for Buchanan. I do think this is going to be a very low-scoring game, maybe like a 16-10 or a 13-10 game. It's hard for me to bet against Bill and the Vikings. He's been so consistent all year, and I know that you have to give a lot of credit to Smash. He came on real strong at the end of the season. I think he finished the last 8 games 5-3. His only 3 losses were twice to the Seahawks and once to the Jaguars. And, man, that's nothing to look down upon. Those are 2 great teams. I think he made a really great push. I just think he picked a bad matchup. I think he's got a mirror image of himself, but just a prettier mirror image of himself. Mm-hmm. I think he's got the Vikings, who are just an improved version of what the Cardinals are. And I think it's going to be really hard to overcome because Bill will not turn the ball over. And eventually I do think Bridgewater is going to turn the ball over. And I think the Vikings win a very close game here.
Yep, I agree with you. I think the Cardinals just need more talent, and the Vikings are just going to out-talent them. All right, let's go back to the AFC game that we spoke about because we didn't pick any winners in that. Refresh my memory. Who was that again? That was the Tennessee Titans against...
Yeah, the Titans and the Raiders.
The Raiders, that's right. It was the Titans and Raiders. Dawson, who do you have in that game?
Like I said, to me, it's one of the biggest playoff matches this season or this playoffs. I'm just going to go with the Titans over the Raiders, just the way he's been playing the last few games. He's been having to win out, I think, the last 3 or 4 games just to get the playoff berth, so he's got that confidence in him. So I'm going to go with the Titans over the Raiders in the wild card.
Yep, I like the Titans over the Raiders myself. I think that it'll be a tight game. It'll be a fun game. It might be one of the better games that we have this playoffs. But I think that the Raiders quarterback situation is going to come back and haunt him. And I think that the Titans will be able to run the ball even without their number one running back because their backup averaged 7.1 yards a carry. So I think he'll just be just fine for this round, and they'll move on in a very tight, close game. Dwayne, who do you have in that game?
Really, it's hard to argue against what you said there. But I will, I'll have to just throw a wrench in all of it, and I'll have to say I'm just going to go with the Raiders. I just think losing Simpson's going to hurt. I don't know how Muhammad and Nua have did the last couple of games. I see Muhammad had 50 yards that last game, and I think Nua had 59 yards, so he didn't have a significant drop-off. But it is nice to have that safety blanket. And Simpson is a guy who knows and has missed superstars to play off before. No matter how good your backup is, it just doesn't replace that guy who gets hurt. I think this is going to be a very good game. When I say that I think the Raiders are going to try to air the ball out. And we just talked earlier about the Titans having a very, top 2 passing defense. But I think this is a game where I think we're just on Arno and Carr. Arno and Cooper, I think they hook up. I think Cooper has about 150 yards this game. I think he's unstoppable against this defense. I've seen the Raiders get hot and, just catch fire and play. Dawson can speak from experience how hot he can get with that passing game. And I have a feeling that he's going to get hot in this playoff. I think he's been itching to get back in the playoffs and make a move. I'm going to have to go with the Raiders on this one. I do think it'll be a higher scoring game. I think it's going to be about 30-24. I think the Raiders are going to pull this one out just because I don't think he can overcome the loss of Simpson.
Let's go ahead and talk about the number 1 and 2 seed in each division. We'll go with the number 1 seed in the Cincinnati Bengals. Have been for a long time one of the, if not the top powerhouses on offense. Of course, fighting with the Seattle Seahawks for that kind of trophy, so to speak. They have a really, really great team. They finished the season at 15-1 and have that number 1 seed. What do you kind of think about the team as a whole as they move into the playoffs? Are they stronger, weaker, or the same as last playoffs? And what do you kind of see there? And then after we cover the 1 and 2 seeds in each division, we'll go back and we'll quickly make our picks all the way to the bowl game.
Go ahead, Dawson.
Yeah, the Bengals, they're the Goliath in the David versus the Goliath scenario. They're always the consistent all through the AFC. I think he's kind of for Cincy, he's the only owner to make it to the bowl game this cycle. Through the AFC. Mo, as well as if you want to discount Ducks. I believe in underdog stories. We all like those movies, and it's nice to see when another owner or no upsets. But right now, I just think until we see otherwise, we just have to go with Cincy, and you can even add in Mo on the NFC side on making the ball again. I think Bengals, he kind of did a different way. We the start of the season, he drafted a quarterback, Alan Decker.
Who's played
I had played him and surprisingly, I played him the very first game, so he was able to try him out. I think he was maybe 10 for 12 or something like that with crazy numbers before he got hurt. So I think that was he knew that he was going to ride it out with Decker and then try to trade away Arnaud. And that's what he did. For a rookie to throw, over 4,000 yards, at least 36 touchdowns, that's pretty impressive. With this, I guess a majority of us are kind of pass heavy now this time of the cycle. So that's pretty impressive the way he's been able to play a rookie. That's even slow development. So you figure in Madden, they kind of have the slow either affect something, but it only affects XP. So as we can see, the way Decker's been playing. The way he's been doing that 1-2 punch on rushing, his offense has been in the top 5, top 3 the whole cycle. So, like you said, I don't want to brown nose too much, but he's been consistently good all cycle, and I just don't see anything going over him. Maybe I think you mentioned that the game he lost to the Vikings, that he had too much to drink, so maybe he drinks too much this playoffs, and maybe somebody can upset him. If he wants that. If not, then I think he will be the AFC current champion as far as the 1 seed. But going back a little farther, one team I do believe can contend for that is Brady and the Jags. He's been consistently running. We all know his memo, know what his go-to plan is, to get Fournette the ball, actually more in the running back core, the ball and ground and pound. The only thing that I don't really like for, stat-wise is right now the Jags have the 31st ranked offense or passing yards, passing for only 135 yards a game. That can be really a weakness when he goes up against a tough offensive team like the Bengals or even like the Jets come in the divisional round. So it's going to be really questionable to see if he can get over the Jets in the division round and compete going into that. But saying that, I feel like Jags can compete if he's on his A game as far as offensively. The way his defense, stat-wise, it's not really, too not too promising. And kind of in the middle, mediocre defense. He can cause those turnovers when he needs to. and he kind of took a few losses when he shouldn't have, or I guess he's 12-4. What I'm talking about, but he's got some nice wins. The one loss that kind of looks out for right now, I guess Seahawks. He lost back in week 5, and then but he I want to say he kind of won. He won like 6 straight, maybe 7 straight. The rest playing out through the season. So he was able to, I guess, find his rhythm and go from there.
D-Ray, I want to hear your thoughts, and Dawson, maybe you can look this up as we talk, but it looks like both of these teams are missing their starting running backs, which is going to be a really big thing if that is absolutely true. I do worry about both of these teams' defense. Brady is known for his defense, and Cincyberg has been known for a really great defense, but both of these teams have taken a step back this year in defense, and again, I'm petrified of that Jaguars passing offense. There's nothing there to speak of. I mean, you're talking about 13 touchdowns total from this team and under 60% completion percentage from both quarterbacks. So, D-Wayne, give me your thoughts on both of these teams.
Well, I'll start with the Bengals, and I think both y'all said a lot of things that or have covered a lot of stuff already on them. But you like said, Dakota's talking about Decker. I think that just speaks to volumes of how good of a that Cincy is. And I don't want to, as we said tonight, Brown knows Cincy, but I think he is one of the best quarterback users we have in this league.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, you're talking about 36 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. With the volume that he passes, he can get by with 18 total interceptions this season with the volume amount of that he does pass. And you go down, like I said, if his running back really is hurt, that's going to be a big thing because, that used to be Cincy's knock is that he didn't, he never had a real vaunted running attack up until, last 4 or 5 seasons, really this cycle. And he's really, I guess, dedicated a lot of time to becoming a better running team. And you look at his top 3 running backs at almost, the median average there is about 6 yards, 6.5 yards of carry between all 3 of them. 24 touchdowns rushing. And he just, all around offensively, he's just scary. You got John Ross, Cole Buckley, Paul Demenci, 3 wide receivers. I mean, we talked about all season about, if guys, like to throw the number 1 guy a lot, or if they like to spread the ball. And this is an example right here. You're talking about 3 receivers with over 37 catches. I mean, wide receivers with over 37 catches.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got 3 big weapons right there that he can attack you with. Buckley had he looks like a down year until you see that he's missed 4 games this season and still had almost 1,200 yards receiving. You go down throughout his other stats. He had Hunt, Atkins with double-digit sacks. He had Mays with 7 picks, Wright with 7 picks, Ford with 7 picks, Norman with 6 picks. I mean, you're talking about the guy who's turned some of these old, he's taking a page out of my book, turning some of these old guys and have some resurrected careers here. The only thing that worries me about Cincinnati is he did play 9 games this season that were single-digit games. And I know that I've always said that, that really, you bring that experience over the playoffs, you got to win your close games. And when you bring 9 wins during the season they weren't runaway wins, you were within a touchdown or so. Even with a late touchdown, you're within 2 touchdowns there. I think that tells a lot of how clutch of a player he is. But also, I think that just shows that he is human and that he can be beat. And I think his defense says that because his defense is subpar per se ranking-wise. I think he's a very opportunistic defense. I think he wants to create turnovers. But, he's, in the words of, I can't remember who always used to say that, but it's a bend but don't break defense. He does give up a lot of yards. He does give up 25 points a game. He's just hoping that he gets a turnover as you're pushing down the field. Dawson, I don't know if you had those injuries or not.
Yeah, neither one of them, they or both. No, they're all healthy on as far as running back wise. So that is
That leads you suck
healthy.
Jacksonville, and I think Nate said it best. Is we always know Brady is a great. I think these stats are a little misleading. I think you look at his 12th in scoring defense. I think he does create turnovers. He is the hit stick king, and I don't think Brady would take that as a bad thing. He's a hit stick king,
but it's
and he makes guys turn the ball. You got 4 guys with over 5 interceptions. You got 4 different guys, 2 with 5, 2 with 7. He plays good defense. I think he does give up a few more yards too, but he creates turnovers. He does keep you out of the end zone a whole lot. But you look at, and I think Nate said it well about his passing game. His passing game is dreadful. And I've never understood with Brady. Brady never has had a top-notch passing team. He almost reminds you, and this is not knocking the Navy University college football team, but they don't pass the ball. And you look, he's got 3 rushers that have all 79 touches or more this year. He really has that system in place to where it's just a rotation. He has 3 guys, and Fournette's going to get the majority. He's going to get 60% of the carries. But Yeldon and Perry are getting their carries to about 8 yards a carry for Fournette. That scares the crap out of me. Yeldon with 6, Perry with 5. They all 3 had double-digit touchdowns. That's phenomenal. No matter how you look at it, he is probably the top-notch runner in our league. And he always has been. He runs the ball. He dedicates to it. And I think the passing game shows how much he dedicates to the running game. And I think that's his downfall. If you look, you've got Robinson with 900 yards receiving, and then the next guy's 400 yards as tight end, of course, with 400 yards receiving. But he's got one weapon on offense receiving-wise, and I think it's really easy to key on that. And I think that's what his downfall is. I think as great of a player and great as a team as the Jaguars are, he's really going to overcome a lot to overcome that just horrible passing game. And I just don't know if he don't want to pass it or if he just wants to run every down. But I would tell Brady this, as a guy who loves to run the ball myself, you got to pass to win.
Yeah.
Or you at least have to pass enough to open up some lane for that running team. And I think that will be the only thing that holds him back in this playoffs is that passing game.
Yep, and I gotta disagree for Brady. This is a pretty atrocious defense. I mean, I know he's 12th in points, but this is still 22 points a game. It's a massively high number for him. And he's 26th in rushing yards allowed per game, another massive number for him. I just worry that that's a bad combination for the playoffs. No quarterback that can open up rushing lanes, and a defense that's just getting gapped on the rushing lanes. Like, I don't know, that just adds up for a bad combination. Now let's move over to the NFC. The Atlanta Falcons with the number 1 seed, the Seattle Seahawks with the number 2 seed. Dawson, why don't you go ahead and talk about Mr. Dwayne here with his Atlanta Falcons. They finished the season at 15-1. Again, one of the most well-rounded, frustratingly good teams that you'll ever see. What did you see from the Falcons? Do you think they're a better team than last year, a good team, or the same team as last year, or a worse team than last year? And what are you looking forward to from them in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think he's got that number 1 seed, so that's a very good, I guess, feeling once you get that seed, and you don't have to worry about either streaming the rest of the playoffs whenever you make it. One key thing that I think of course, if you look at the stats wise, he's been in the top 5 consistently. Passing yards is just shy of 200 yards a game, but you don't need to pass the ball when you're winning the game with 132 averaging 135 yards rushing on the ball. His defense has just been lights out consistently, only allowing 16 points a game compared to scoring 32 points a game. So that's pretty impressive nonetheless. What's one stat as far as this kind of stuck out there was his quarterback, Paxton Lynch. He's thrown for 23 touchdowns, but also only thrown for 4 interceptions. And that's like usually I throw 4 a game, so I don't see how he made it 4 just throughout the season. So hats off to him on that. Yeah. And then the completion rate, 70%. I think, a lot of times, and during the offseason, he kind of revamped his receiving core. He got completely new guys that he knew that he was going to be able to go to, and I think he got all 3 of them. Taywan Taylor, Ron Switzer, Devin Funchess, all in the off season. So he didn't rely on the draft at all. Which he never does. He builds up on free agency, and that's just his, different strokes for different folks. But I think I guess try to cut it a little short. He has progressed compared to last season. He's got the number 1 seed, so that's showing that. He's got a tough competition in the NFC. As we can see, in the beginning of the cycle, it was all NFC. It was a big, maybe record-wise between the NFC and the AFC. But now we kind of see the AFC all together, bunched up, trying to fight for that last playoff spot. Then you got the NFC. You still got the big dogs over there, and every once in a while you get a few, the wild cards in there. Or the new divisional winners. I don't know. Just to wrap it up, I think it is with Mo. I know he does got the 2 seed, but Falcons' only loss was to Mo back in week 1. So it's going to be interesting to see if Falcons can redeem itself and get that revenge, or if Mo can just consistently, go through the playoffs and grab his try to go for his third, a third trophy, a third straight trophy for the cycle.
Wrap it up is what Dwayne needs to do whenever he plays you, because it doesn't feel good at all. I mean, these running backs just have these gaping holes to run through. And look, he's moved this offense away from Kaiser over to Lynch, and Lynch has just played superb. But it's the rushing game that can just frustrate you. There's just massive holes for 6 and 7 yards a carry. And Dwayne just plays smart and doesn't turn the ball over, eats the clock, and then forces you into some really tough plays on defense. It's funny, we've been talking for an hour and we haven't even come remotely close to even giving our picks for just the playoffs. So, Dwayne, we're not going to make you talk about your team. I do think that they're much more improved, which in my opinion is weird to say because I think he has less talent than he has over the past 2 seasons, but yet this is a better team, and he's playing, old-fashioned Dwayne ball. Eat the clock, cause you to turn the ball over, never give you the ball back, and before you know it, it's the fourth quarter and you're losing by 21. But Dwayne, let's talk about the guy who's been the number 1 seed the last couple of seasons, but is the number 2 seed this year, the Seattle Seahawks. What do you see from the Seattle Seahawks? Is there a better team, a worse team, because they did get the number 2 seed this year, or the same? And what are you kind of expecting from them in the playoffs?
Well, I don't think they're not they are the best team in the NFC, and I say that is I have the utmost respect for Mo. I think he runs a very unique but very efficient, as we all see, way of running his team. Um, I think that he probably could have got number 1 seed. He was probably smarter than me. He did rest some of his guys the last couple weeks, and I think he ended up losing a game that cost him that number 1 spot. But if you look over his team, he's second in points, second total yards on offense, third in passing, 9th in rushing. Defense, he's second in points, first total yards, first passing yards, second rushing yards. His defense, and that's saying that's just so crazy to say that his defense wins for him. But as good as offense is, but his defense just puts him in spots to win the game, and his defense is just so well-rounded. And look at Wilson. Most teams that throw 25 interceptions, their starting quarterback aren't 14-2 and aren't the favorites in the whole OMFL to win the championship. But Wilson has 40 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, almost 4,200 yards passing on 66% passing. You go to rushing, you have True Luck and Williams with 1,000 and 500 yards respectively. 5 yards rushing attempt for True Luck, 3.5 for Williams. But we know that Mo, I swear sometimes Mo just runs to keep just to say he runs sometimes because he doesn't need to. But True Luck has been a steady influence for him. He's been a trusted back that he can give the ball to, doesn't turn the ball over a lot, can get 3 or 4 or 5 yards a carry. Then you go to receiving, and this is where he separates himself from everybody else. He's a wide receiver guru. He has Reggie Dacko and Will Kesey with 2,000 yards and almost 1,500 yards respectively. 25 touchdowns.
Hurt, do we know? Because in Daddy Leagues he's hurt.
He's not hurt anymore. I do think he got hurt at some point during the season. Daddy Leagues is just funny. I don't know why they keep guys hurt. I know he was healthy at last game because he out-received Dacko that last game of the season. And the bad thing about it, when Kesey is quote-unquote your second in receiving, you're in pretty good shape. The only negative I have to say about his receiving is if you can key in, and I think that Bill did that when he played him earlier this season, is Bill just keyed in on Dacko and Kesey and made somebody else try to beat him, and nobody did. That's the only thing I mean, that's the only complaint. If that's the only way you can complain about the receiving core for the Seahawks, I think you're all right, is that you have 34 of your 4,200 comes from 2 guys, and it's predictable. And, I think Nate used to say that about, me running the ball is, where it's coming, you just got to stop it. And guys know where it's going. It's going to Dak or Kesey. Can you stop it? And I know from Mo, I play Mo week 1. He embarrassed me week 1. But he comes out in legit formations, 2 running backs, the tight end, 2 receivers. When you got 2 receivers like that, you don't need. I mean, they get space, they create space, and they're just nearly impossible to stop. Then you go to defense, and defense is where, like I said earlier, he wins games. McDowell had 34 sacks this season. Gillette, who's a rookie, was the number one third overall pick this year, had 23 sacks. Jones had 10 sacks. You're talking about a front four right there that
Stupid.
it's crazy. And Mo really doesn't use the line like to. If I'm not mistaken, when I played him, more than half the game he used it as linebacker. Those are just stats from the computer getting sacks. And then you go over and you look at Harper had 7 picks, Earl Thomas had 3 picks, Battles had 5, multiple guys had 2 and 3. He just
Little
puts you in a
had
bad
8.
position. You said Little had 8?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the heck I'm seeing. I have horrible eyes, by the way. But I think his defense just puts you in bad spots. I mean, he knocks you on first down, he sacks you for 8 yards. Second down, you pick up 2 yards, or he sacks you again. You're 3rd and long, and guess what you're throwing into? You're throwing into the best secondary in the league. And I say that is if you ever look at his secondary, his top 4 cornerbacks are. I think if you go in the search bar and look up the top cornerbacks in the league, he has 4 of the top 15 or 20 cornerbacks in the league on his team. So his nickel cornerback and his dime cornerback are just as good as his starters. So it doesn't get any better, guys. So when he gets sacks like that and forced you in bad plays, he just sits back and, he's just licking his lips as you throw them passes into his secondary. And I think that's what separates him from everybody else. I think his defense can single-handedly win him games. And I think that his offense, at the same time, can score so fast. I don't think his running game is, like I say, it's nothing special. His running game is nothing special. But he just can score so fast with Kesey and Datko and with Wilson, and his defense to shut down guys. I think he is the favorite in the NFC. I think he's the favorite in the whole OMFL. And I'm not telling y'all anything that y'all don't already know. Seahawks are the heavy favorite. I think that the bad thing about it, though, this year, in my opinion, they have more flaws this year than they did last year. And I say that as in the games that they lost this year, they were exposed. They turned the ball over. And as I've told Dawson before, the only person that can beat Mo in this cycle right now is Mo. And I think the only way he loses this postseason is if he beats himself. If somebody is patient and makes him throw the ball and makes him turn the ball over, in my opinion, that's the only way the Seahawks lose in the NFC.
Dawson, what do you want to add to that?
Well, I think we pretty much all said it as far as Mo. He lost 2 games. I think he lost from last season 1 game. Can't remember, but he's 14-2. Did get the number 2 seed. That's just because Falcons has been playing exceptionally well all through the season and grabbed that number 1 seed with a 15-1 record. I mean, if he would have lost 1 more game, the Seahawks probably would have got the number 1 seed. So, just to touch, I guess, put a bow on it as far as the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds on both division or both conferences. I think they pretty much showed, that they deserve to be in that spot, and that especially with the way they are, or the way the layout is, and it's going to be interesting to see if all of the number 1 and 2 seeds make it to the championship rounds, and which one of those will be able to make it to the trophy, to the Super Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought you guys were gonna have some other stuff, and I also was about to lose it about my Pelicans. I think. Look, at the end of the day, he's one of the most frustrating teams to look at and play, and by far the most well-rounded team. And I think you guys hit all the points to why he's unstoppable, almost it seems, but. Every team is beatable, and you never quite know what's going to happen here. So let's go back and finish making our predictions. Now we got the 2 games or the 1 game that happened in the AFC, the 1 game that happened in the NFC. So let's go back and finish making our predictions. You guys, one of you picked the Raiders, the other picked the Titans, and then we've got the Bengals. The Jets have moved on. If I remember the seeding correctly. And then, of course, we got the Jaguars. Go ahead and finish making your picks. Who makes it to the bowl game in the AFC. Dawson, will go to you first. Make your pick all the way through. How do you think these games are going to play out? Who makes it to the bowl game from the AFC?
For the AFC, yeah. So yeah, I do have the Titans, getting the edge over the Raiders in the wild card round, and then facing the juggernaut, the Bengals. This is kind of like a play on the words because the Titans are the David in this David versus Goliath, like I said earlier. But it's going to be tough. I mean, I can see Titans getting the upsets. But just to make a quick answer, I think the Bengals will grab the win and advance to the championship round. And then on the next divisional round, AFC divisional round, you have the Jags and the Jets. Just the way the Jags have been playing the last few weeks, with that number one rushing attack, it's going to be hard to stop, or it's going to be hard for Modelli to stop that. One good thing for Modelli is that he's getting his star outside linebacker back, Ciantrell Pickett. He's play that 3-4 outside linebacker, so he's going to be able to get the edge and the edge rush. It's going to be interesting to see if Jets can get a point, get a lead in the game, and make Jags to throw the ball. I'm going to go with easy pick with this one. I'm going to say Brady and the Jags win over the Jets, advance to the championship round. Is seed number one seed versus number two seed, and just the way that Bengals has consistently been throughout this season, 15-1, with one loss against the Vikings, and with the Jags, they're 12-4. They got a lot of confidence going in, but it's interesting to see if Jags can get over that hump and be a threat in the playoffs, because a lot of times they do make the playoffs, but they either don't get out of the divisional round or they don't get out of the wild card round itself. So if Brady will have nightmares as far as not trying to go over there, go the hump. But I do see the Bengals winning that game and advancing to the bowl game.
Yep, I see. I see the Jets actually beating. Help me out here. Who are the Jets playing again? Jeez,
Jags.
The Jags. Right? That's right. I see the Jets actually beating the Jags because of the Jaguars' quarterback situation. I think the Jets do play really great defense. It'll be a great game. I do see the Jets coming away with that upset victory. I've already picked the Tennessee Titans to win, but they're going to go face the Bengals. The Bengals are going to come away with that one. And then you've got the Bengals versus the Jets, and I think the Bengals are going to win that going away. I don't think that anyone actually challenges the Bengals or comes even close until you get to the OMFL bowl game. D. Wayne, how do you see the playoffs breaking out? Because you actually have the Raiders winning one of these first-round games.
I did. I had the Bengals and the Jets matching up in the divisional round. I had the Bengals getting out. I do think it'll riding high right now. I think he's played really good late this season. I do think he has an offense when it's clicking to hang with the Bengals high-scoring team. I just don't think he has enough all around to beat the Bengals, and I just don't think his team's well-rounded enough or built to play that type of playoff football against the Bengals. I think that game will be like a 30-20 or a 35, about a 15-point game, a 2-touchdown game. The one that gets me is the Raiders and Jags. I think the Raiders come in here and throw the ball, like you said earlier, over a less than typical Jaguars defense. I think they throw the ball. I think they get ahead early, and I think they force the Jags to throw the ball. And I just don't see the Jags throwing the ball successfully. I think that the Raiders will get in control early, and I think it will kind of force Brady to get out of his comfort zone. He won't be able to run the ball 30, 35 times like he would like. I do think the Raiders come away with this one with a close game, and like I said, a lot could dictate either way. If Brady's a guy who, if he can get ahead and get you uncomfortable, that he can win this one. But I just don't see it happening like this. And I see his passing game, as much respect as I have for Brady and the Jaguars, I think his passing game comes back to bite him here in the divisional round. And I have the Bengals and Raiders going head to head, and I do think this game will be a lot closer than most people would think. I think Dawson could speak to the Raiders in that division. I think that division has really got him ready to run into a team like the Bengals, who are I guess you'd say proven playoff ready, because he does play the Broncos, he does play the Chargers, he plays the Chiefs, who are three teams who are very solid, and two of them guys have been playoff tenure teams before. I think he keeps it close. It's hard to go against the Bengals and their high-powered offense in the AFC. I just don't see nobody that can, and even the Raiders, who I have playing in that championship round, I just don't think they have enough firepower to compete with the Bengals at this point.
All right, so we all have the Bengals in the AFC. Let's turn our attention over to the NFC. D-Wayne, we'll go with you first since we went with Dawson first last time. How do you see the NFC playing out?
Well, right now you got the Philadelphia in the second round, so we'll go with the Vikings game, and the Vikings go to Seattle, and I think the Vikings, honestly, in my opinion, are in Mo's head a little bit. I think Mo's going to run in to prove a point and to put his foot down on Bill early, for Bill giving him a loss, and for Bill, showing how mortal Mo can be. No disrespect to Mo with that one, but showing that Mo can be mortal. I think Bill comes out. I think Mo comes out and tries too hard. I think Neil makes him pay for it with that defense. I think Bill gets ahead. I think that Mo makes a valiant comeback with that offense once he gets settled into that playoff zone. But I just think that the Vikings are going to be too much defensively. I think he's got his mindset that he knows what he has to stop on the Seahawks team. I think he stuffs the run and makes Mo pass the ball 40 to 45 times this game. And I think that's just too many times and too many chances for the ball to be intercepted. And I do see the ball being 3 or 4 interceptions. And you just can't do that against Bill. I see the Vikings coming away from that game in like a 2017 score, in a low-scoring game, because of the turnovers from the Seahawks side of the ball. And I know that might sound surprising, but if there is a kryptonite to that powerful offense that the Seahawks have, I think it could be the Vikings. In the other one, between me and the Falcons, the Falcons and the Eagles, I think that's another game of two good defensive teams who are, like I said, Ziplock's been there before, Andrew's been there before. He's a playoff-proven team, but this is his first time that his Eagles have got a win, and I think he will be riding high after beating his division rival. And they did play earlier this season within, I think it was a 4-point game. I do see my Falcons coming out with just an edge victory. I think offensively, the Eagles rely too much on Foster, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that gets him in trouble sometimes trying to force feed that number one receiver. And I think that would be the downfall. I just think he turns the ball over once or twice, and I just don't see, unless something happens, I think the Falcons come away with like a 24-20 win. And I think in the NFC Championship game, I think you have Bill and the Vikings revenge for the regular season. I think you have a very low-scoring defensive game where the Falcons run the ball 30, 35 times, run the clock. I think Bill actually does have a decent running game against a very good Falcons run defense. I think he does run well with the Falcons focusing on trying to slow Diggs down, and I think the Vikings come away with a 20-14 victory over the Falcons.
Yeah, that's definitely some upsets that you've picked there. I see the Vikings beating the Cardinals. I think that defense is just too good. That's going to send, like you said, the Vikings over to Seattle, and that's going to send the Philadelphia Eagles over to Atlanta. I see the Seattle Seahawks paying the Vikings back. I just think that the lack of offensive issues are just going to – the Seahawks are just too good. They're just too loaded. They turn it on in the playoffs. Also, the same thing with the Falcons. I think that the Falcons just know how to turn it on in the playoffs, and those two teams are both going to win their games going away, and that's going to get you to the NFC Championship game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. And I think it'll be a really good game. It should be a tough game between two teams who try not to turn the ball over. Again, the Seattle Seahawks will turn the ball over, and so that can come back to bite them because the Falcons have proven at 15-1 that they will not turn the ball over. I just think that freaking Atlanta Falcons team, that defensive line with 60-plus sacks all by themselves, almost broke the sack record again this season. That offense with those two receivers, that running game, they're just too loaded. I see the Seattle Seahawks winning. going to what would it be, their third, fourth straight OMFL Bowl, and their third or fourth straight against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my pick to go all the way in the NFC. Dawson, how do you see the NFC playing out?
Yeah, I think it would be the third one, but I kind of side with you a lot of the games. I do have the Vikes over the Cards, and going up to Seattle. For Seattle, Mo, the way he plays, that is, I guess, what Dakota's been saying, a little bit kryptonite, the way Mo plays and Bill's defense on causing turnovers and taking advantage and getting points off those turnovers. So I think that's going to be a really close game up into about the mid-third quarter to the rest of the way, when Seahawks will creep away as far as the way his offense can be run. So I do see Seahawks getting revenge over the Vikings and going to the championship round. For the Falcons and Eagles, Falcons are, like you said, 15-1, and very similar to Mo as far as they can only, I guess for Falcons, those cause those turnovers and limit those turnovers as well. I think that's going to be too much for Eagles. Just the way Andrew plays, he's more of I feel is more of a defensive concentrated team than his offense. Like Dakota was saying, kind of focus more on Maven Foster, which is rightly so, the way he plays and how fast and big he is. But I think that's going to cause a few problems down the road in those crucial downs when it needs to get that conversion of the third down or get that touchdown instead of the field goal. I think that's just going to be Falcons just going to be too much for Eagles, which will leave the Falcons and Seahawks in the conference championship game. And I'm just going to go with my gut here. And just because, like I said, I guess I'm playing favoritism, I'm going to go with the Falcons winning, getting that revenge back in week one, causing those few turnovers that Mo is known to kind of force the ball this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays that out throughout the playoffs. But I have the Falcons going into I guess this would be the first OMFL bowl game this cycle. Second. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. So there we go. That gets us to the OMFL Bowl. I've got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Seattle Seahawks. I think that the Bengals are actually kind of going to come away with their is it their first victory this Madden? Maybe not.
They beat me, and they started off. They won 2 in a row. This will be their third one.
That's right. So this will be their third one this Madden. I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning it all. Dawson, who do you have winning it all?
I got the Falcons winning it all.
Dwayne.
And I have Bill getting his first championship. I don't know if this is the first time in OMFL. You could correct me, Nate. But I see Bill's defense. I think this is Bill's year. I think he played great. I think he had a fluke loss or a fluke tie to Outlaw that really cost him a top spot. But he beat the 2 best teams in the league. He's one of the few people that can say, probably the only person that can say he beat the Bengals and the Seahawks both in the same season. I think that it's on his side. I think this is Bill's shot to be the champ this year.
That would be some major upsets as Bill not only goes all the way, but actually wins his first OMFL Bowl. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Now, we have went really, really long here. There's a lot of stuff to kind of catch up and talk about. But let's quickly run through a couple of things. We don't have time to break down stats, but just go ahead and give me your player and maybe one sentence as to why. Who is your MVP for season 78? Let's go to Dwayne.
If I had to go with one guy who is, I guess you say MVP, I want to, this might be a surprising for some, but I won't have to go with Alan Decker, the quarterback of the Bengals. I think a lot of people they really questioned the move that he was going for when he went with a rookie quarterback and traded away a proven stud in Arnaud. And people, kind of looked at him sideways, and I think he proved us all wrong. I think this guy single-handedly, I say single-handedly, distributed the ball to the weapons that Cincinnati has. And I think without Decker and without what he had this year, and I know you could say that he would do that with Arnaud or he'd do that with anybody else. Just looking at it from a player prospect, he got value. He is on a pretty cheap deal. And he just turned a guy who is a slow development rookie into MVP, in my opinion, in the AFC. And I just think he's probably the best team, especially best regular season team this season. In my opinion, I think he is the MVP.
Dawson, who's your MVP for season 78?
Yeah, I really like Decker just the way he's been playing, but just to mix things up, I mean, you can add Daco, but he's just a receiver, and the quarterback has to throw the ball to him. So I'm going to go with the quarterback, and I'm going to go with Paxton Lynch has the MVP just because his completion rate is 70%. Is or I guess you don't want stats, but that's the reason why I picked him. And just the way he's been playing, he's been keying the Falcons in, getting them ready for that 15-1 record.
And I know you were going to talk about it, but only 4 interceptions, so that's something that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 4 interceptions, 70%, 15
And that's
1.
mainly why I would go for him is because just the way he's been playing this season.
It would be hard to argue against that. Give me your one rookie player that was the biggest surprise this season. Dawson, we'll go to you.
Surprise. You can add Datko. Just the way I think he was drafted, maybe second or third round, and just the numbers he's put up. Another one you can add is Javonte Singletary. His rookie year, he's got over 1,000 yards receiving, but you can also you had Gilbert Nixon with the Broncos, the way his numbers are, but he was number 1 overall. Most surprising, I'm going to go with Darren Gillette just because he had 23 sacks in his rookie year. So I think that's pretty impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, it's stupid
Yeah.
what he was able to do with a guy. But, when you give the 4th pick in the first round to the Super Bowl winning team, you deserve that. Like, that's just I'm just going to call it like it was. It's stupid. You don't give the guy who won the Super Bowl a top 5 pick. Stupid move. Dwayne, who is your most biggest rookie surprise this season?
I think we can look back on this class. You had the 3 second-round picks were Decker, Simpson, and Daco. They were all picked in the second round. That's ridiculous. You're talking about 3 just dominant BC players. I mean, that's really hard to argue against all those. Like I said, Gillette was a I guess you'd say a lottery pick as an NBA, but he was a top pick. You look at you said Nixon. Is that what the Broncos receiver? Dawson. You look at him. He was like first overall pick. You have high expectations for guys like those. And you talked about Daco. Daco exceed expectations unless you just know who Mo is. If you looked at that guy, you knew what Mo was turning him into, in my opinion. And Decker, I've talked about him being MVP, but I'm going to shed some light and go with Malik Simpson. I think that we look at this guy who, with the injury, he's 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, single-handedly, in my opinion, carried the Titans to the playoffs. And we've always talked about Clyde wanting to get over that hump. Well, he's got a running back now who just doesn't jump off the board with you. There's just a whole lot. He's just steady across the board, 87 speed, 83 acceleration,
Crazy.
93 carry, 85 truck. He just turned a guy who, I hate to say like a Emmitt Smith style because he's 6'3", 230 pounds. Simpson, he's a huge running back. But, Emmitt Smith was not fast. He was not, he just didn't run over 85 truck, and he's not running over everybody on the field. There's just nothing special about this guy, and yet he's almost a 1,500-yard rusher in his rookie season and single-handedly took Clyde to the playoffs. And in my opinion, he's the biggest surprise to me because I think with even, I didn't think Decker would play as good as he did this year. I thought he would be good in the hands of Cincy. And Daco, like I said, I just knew, we just know looking at Daco what he was going to be to Seattle. I think Simpson's my biggest surprise, and I think Clyde should be proud of the running back that he has there.
Yeah, I don't know why my strong safety rookie undrafted player is not on here, but he would have led all rookies with 6 interceptions. That was a pretty big surprise. I agree with what you said. Daco, you knew what Mo was going to be able to do with a 97 speed, 97 acceleration wide receiver. Gillette was a 4th overall pick. So to say those 2 are surprises, I think is not being truthful with yourself. The 2 that stick out to me are the 2 that you guys talked about, Decker and Simpson. And Simpson is the one I got to go with. 87 speed, 83 acceleration. I wouldn't even look at him in free agency. Like, this guy turned this dude into what should have been a 1,500-yard receiver. It's just absolutely amazing, and I think that he is the surprise for me this past season. Let's go ahead and swap over. I think that we might have a couple of questions. Let me see. Um, no, I think we actually don't have any new questions. Now we did have some questions that we didn't really get to, and we really don't have time to get to tonight. Just from the Bucks, Tanner. His name's Anthony on the forums, which messes me up all the time. But Tanner wanted to talk about how do you make a comeback with a guy when you're down 2 or 3 touchdowns. Tanner, just watch the playoffs. I'm sure that one of these teams is going to fall down big, like the Giants did and end up making a roaring comeback. So overall, some exciting things to look towards in season 78. Season 79, I'm really looking forward to. I think going to All Madden will mix some things up and give some other teams some opportunities to make a run. We'll all kind of be on the same playing field. It should make for an interesting season, and maybe the Falcons, Bengals, Seahawks powerhouses that we've been seeing. Maybe we can give them some run for their money, but it should be a really great season. Put your final touches on today's show, your thoughts for the playoffs, and what you're looking forward to for the rest of the way here. Dawson, let's go to you.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch the rest of the playoffs. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet or watch at least a few of these games going on. And for the ones that are not in the playoffs, there is the Toilet Bowl going on. So hopefully, you can watch a few games on that. So it was only 7 that participated. So, but also another thing is you can wrap up and start counting your incentive points. Because you need to turn those in and just get ready for the off season. The last off season, we're going into wrapping up the cycle and getting ready for All Madden. So best of luck.
D. Wayne, put some final thoughts on this, bud.
Yeah, you're talking about Tanner's question about falling behind. I'll tell you, Tanner, as a person who has fell behind by a couple touchdowns before and successfully and unsuccessfully came back, you just can't abandon your game plan, especially early in the game. You fall behind a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. You just got to stick to your game. You can't abandon your game plan. You got to stick to what got you there, and you just got to hope that your game plan, your coaching, and your players will make some plays and get you back in the game. And I think Dawson said it right there about these guys you might need to play some games offline or something like that. Get ready for All Madden because these CPU players, these cornerbacks, these guys, they're going to be making some plays that you're not used to seeing. And I think that I'm already preparing to hear the outcry that first week or two when these cornerback guys are throwing 6-7 interceptions because you're not going to get away with some of these throws with these All Madden, guys. And I think the playoffs this year, especially we have quite a few new guys this year. Either this is the first or second season for them. I think this is a good time for them to watch the playoffs, see what it's about, get excited. I seen Mo Daly tonight get in the chat, and he's not in the chat a whole lot. But when he plays, he's excited, and he lets you know that he's fixing to play. He gets the Jets chant going, and I like seeing guys get excited. And I think guys can really look at some of these teams that are in there this year as some of these underdogs that either hadn't been here in a while, or you got some of these guys that are here every year. And you look at like Mo and Cincy and even Bill. I think you can put Bill in that category now as a team that you expect to be in the playoffs. And you can see the atmosphere we get here in the OMFL. So I think this is going to be a good postseason, and I think this is going to be a very interesting going into season 79 and our last season of this cycle, going to All Madden, and then hit that milestone. Madden 19, I think you said the other day, is going to be season 80, and that's a milestone, a big milestone, and I'm just excited to see it.
Yep, I agree. Lots of really good things. There's a ton of stuff that I could sit here and talk about, but to be honest, it's 11:30 at night. My brain is completely fried. At the end of the day, keep up with the forums. I will try to send out as many messages as I can. I just took a new position at work, and so I'm a little drowning with everything that's kind of going on. So I'm going to be tagging my board buddies here to kind of help me keep up with everything from incentive points. FPR grades are going to be dropping in the next 48 hours or so. I'm going to try to work on those in the next couple of days. There's just a lot of moving pieces as I try to get things ready. Please, if you want to test Madden, help us test sliders. I think we're going to go with Madden Ballers Club sliders and then make adjustments if we feel like people can get enough test games in and help us make adjustments. But the only way that's going to happen is if you ask for an invite and start playing some games. We got to have that happen. Keep in touch with everything that's going on, from the toilet bowl to incentive points to just everything. Things are going to move quickly. I've updated as many threads as I possibly can update, so things are there. They're waiting on you. I will do my best to keep up, but I'm only one human, right? And things move so quickly and so fast, it can be hard to keep up, but I will do my best to keep everybody in the loop. I'm asking for this off season that you guys do your part and that you're looking at the forums, that you're asking questions, that you're using the codes, and if you see something that's not updated, that you're saying something. Because if you're looking for messages from me, that's going to be really, really difficult. So lots of really great stuff. I want to thank both of my buddies for making time for us tonight to get this in. We've had a hard time finding some times that fit, but we got it in tonight. It's 11:30. As you can hear in my voice, I'm completely done. I'm tired. I'm toast. My Pelicans have pretty much lost, and so I'm going to go to cry myself to sleep here and dream about next season. So Dawson, Dwayne, you guys are the very best. Thank you so much for everything. To the board, to Colin, who's putting together all of the award winners. Thank you for doing that. Priest for the photos. Even though you took them with your phone, it's still better than nothing. Check out that graphic that I made. That's a lot of work that goes into that graphic. For Chaotic and all the guys, Dwayne I know watches a lot of film for the FPR. Thank everybody so much for helping. If you want to give us a hand, Bill, he's another one who to a point that drives some people nuts, but I love it. He stays on top of people for scheduling games and gets those games in. But if you have some extra time and you would like to help with some little things that would just save us tremendous time, please hit up a board member. Ask what you can do. We can definitely find something for you to do. We always, always need help. Get those toilet bowl games in. Help us with your incentive points and your award winners. I'll get the award show out this weekend. Just lots and lots of really great stuff. So for Dwayne, for Dawson, for all the board here in OMFL, thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight. We'll see you after the playoffs, guys. Deuces.
Later,
See you
guys.
guys.